What's going on, guys? K-Pine here and welcome back. And in this video, I'll be featuring an oppressive and one of the most busted teams you could possibly run in the Fantasy Cup. Azumarill Lead, Shadow Excadrill Safe Swap, and Shadow Alolan Dugtrio as the closer. Yeah, that's the team. If you thought Mudslap was busted in Open GreatLeague, you haven't seen anything yet. You basically just always need to save both of your shields for the Mudslappers, unless you absolutely have to reach another move on Azu or keep it around as a counter. And that's really all that needs to be said. So with that, let's get right into the battles. Alright, getting to the first battle, we lead Azu into Shadow Empoleon. Now it's very important you throw a bubble in this matchup first and check the fast move of the Empoleon, as if it is Waterfall, you are going to want to stand with your Azu here. If it's Metal Claw or Steel Wing, then you're going to want to safe swap into your Shadow Excadrill and see what they respond with, because you're trying to bait out, something that the Shadow Alolan Dugtrio wouldn't want to see, since both the Excadrill and the Dugtrio are that Steel and Ground typing. But in this matchup, this Empoleon is on Waterfall, so we're going to stay in. Like I said, we're not giving up any of our shields yet. We want to save both of those bad boys for our Mudslappers in the back. Second play rough does land after getting their first shield, and I'm gonna wait until I get very low, then snipe the Empoleon with the Excadrill. So we're able to take it out, waste all that energy. Pretty sure they had a Hydro loaded right there, but they don't anymore since that Mudslap does take it out, and they bring in a Flygon. And if this is their best answer to an Excadrill, I'm hoping that the Dugtrio is going to have a good matchup. So we do fire off this Jewel Run right before we go down. My opponent does let it go, and they come in with a Clefable. They want to get a Fairy Wind down, but they won't be able to before I reach a Parting Jewel Run, which does get their final shield. Now I can just bring in my Dugtrio, and this match is over. I could probably just go straight for Mud Bomb here since it hits so hard, but we will reach an Iron Head, so why not? This will be massive overkill to that Clefable as it goes down, and that is a good game. GG's. Next battle, Azu into Azu. So the mirror matchup here is a little bit interesting, because whether you win CMP or lose CMP kind of determines how you're going to play out that end game scenario a little bit. So you kind of want to throw your second play rough as soon as you can. I don't like throwing the first play rough right away, just in case your opponent tries to make a catch. And when you're running a team where your backline's as classy as this one, like a catch that your opponent makes could be very, very devastating. So I do like to throw that second play rough though right away, like I said, because that gives me a good idea of how I want to play out this end game, where here my opponent overfarms, so I can't tell, and that's perfectly fine, because I will find out if I win CMP here, which it does not look like I do. So I'm just going to let it go, and I'm going to Mudslap them down with my Excadrill. I will take some hefty bubble damage in the process, but I get up on energy. But say, well, they hard swap in their own Shadow Alolan Dugtrio. We do get the Mudslap down, and now from here, I'm hoping it's not the mirror team, and thankfully it's not. It's a Ferrothorn, but they do have two shields, and look how much those bullet seeds are chunking. So it's gonna come down to if we can hang on here. But like I was saying, if you end up winning CMP, then you'll just play out the matchup normally with the go for the playoffs and everything. Your opponent shields, you won't shield in return. Your opponent doesn't shield, then you just win switch, right? But if you realize you lose CMP, you want to go for that Ice Beam right before they reach the play rough, so you can get a little bit of chip damage in return, so you'll take less bubble damage when you come in with your Excadrill to Mudslap it down. Very important you do that right here. And here, opponent safe swapped that Empoleon. Gotta check that fast move. I was a little too jumpy on it. I brought in my Excadrill right away. Fortunately, it was Waterfall, so I do get hard punished because of that. So just something you have to be wary of there. I would have stayed in with my Azumarill if I realized that it was on Waterfall there. Something to keep in mind. Now they do have a Whimsicott in the back. Whimsicott's a little bit of a core breaker here, but just based off its typing, but it's not really, just because how bulky Azu is and has the opportunity to fight back with Ice Beams, plus with how attack weighted the Excadrill and Dugtrio are, the Mudslap still hurt and do a decent amount of fast move damage to it. But here, I do realize that my Azu is the win condition. So I do actually save both shields for it there. One of the rare occasions where I'm saving shields for the Azu, just because I know that I'll be able to outpace to 2 Ice Beams before they're able to take both of my shields and take me out with the Seed Bomb. So I do give up my second shield to that Seed Bomb, and they will reach a third Seed Bomb here. But Azu, we know, extremely bulky, extremely tanky, able to hang on as well as reach that final Ice Beam to take out their Whimsicott. So a little bit of a dicey end game there, but we were able to pull it out. GG's. Next battle. Azu into Turtonator. Fantastic lead. See what my opponent wants to do. And they're staying in this matchup. If they stay in this matchup, you're going to want to throw your Ice Beam after 8 bubbles. But if they throw right away like they do here, you can gauge it to throw your move after 3 bubbles for good timing, or after 1 bubble so you don't get caught into a cycle reset. They say swap into a Ferrothorn. You got to be quick on your answer with your Shadow Excadrill here, because if you pay attention, I will fire off this Drill Run onto the CMP tie, and if my opponent decides they want to shield this Drill Run, that's perfectly fine because I can shield in return and then get the Mud Slap down. That's why it's really important to be quick on that counter swap so you can get that Mud Slap down as opposed to dealing less Mud Slap damage in replace for that bubble damage. Now they come in with Azu. We are able to fire off 1 Drill Run here. We do get to a second Drill Run. This will take out the Azu or force their final shield. My opponent decides to let it go as they want to save that shield for the Turtonator. Unfortunately, my opponent does get 1 turn bring in there, so they take 2 Mud Slaps instead of 1. But fortunately, or I guess unfortunately for my opponent, it doesn't necessarily matter because this match was still a lock anyways. Because I do reach 2 moves on the Azu, and if I didn't reach 2 moves on the Azu, and they somehow landed another Flash Cannon that would have taken me out, my Dugtrio would have been able to Mud Slap down in time. GG's. Next battle, Azu into Perrserker. Safe swap into that Excadrill right away. I want to see what response they have to the Exca. And my opponent stays in to fire off a move, and they take a massive Mud Slap damage. That's 4 Mud Slaps, bringing them deep into the red. They bring in a Turtonator, and here I make a big mistake. I was like, oh yeah, surely I survived that second Incinerate, so I could throw 3 Mud Slaps for good timing and get off the move. I don't, and I lose that ability to take a shield from my opponent. And when you're running a glassy team, like I said, a big mistake like that can be very costly, but we're not quitting yet. We're gonna see what we can do here. Land the Ice Beam. I go for a little bit of an undercharge because I want to be able to get 1 more bubbles of farm down, but my opponent ends up shielding it anyways, and now that's fantastic. That's exactly what I needed, that I'm able to get that shield back in such an advantageous matchup. So it kind of cancels out that error I made earlier in the match. Now they bring in their own Azu, and this is a little tricky because look at those bubbles shred the Alolan Dugtrio. We are gonna have to give up a shield here because they just straight up go for the Hydro Pump. I was saying even if they go for a Play Rough, that would do massive damage to the Alolan Dugtrio. But we do fortunately get to back-to-back Mud Bombs here, where the first one will get their shield and the second one will take them out. And now we have to see what they come in with, because if they come in with the Turtonator, I'm going to get a very nice hefty Mud Slap there. Puts them in a single bubble range, and if they come on a Perrserker, would have just been gone. So Azu just was very comfortably able to clean that up by bubbling down the Perrserker and then that single bubble for the Turtonator. GG's. Next battle. Azu into Shadow Alolan Dugtrio. Fantastic lead. My opponent brings in a Giratina, and here I hesitate. And that's going to most likely put me in a very, very tough spot because we know how oppressive that Shadow Alolan Dugtrio is. I'm like, I don't have a great answer to this, so I'm just going to stay in with the Azu and, and chip it and whatnot. But that's a costly mistake because I need my Azu around for that Dugtrio. So next time, a better way to play this would be you see that Giratina safe swap, you instantly bring in your Shadow Excadrill and do what you can to maintain switch, right? Like They'll probably just be able to go for Ominous Winds because of how glass you are, but it doesn't matter. Switch is the most important thing in that matchup. And now, as you'll see here, my Azu's way too low, where I'm not going to be able to get enough bubble damage off onto that Alolan Dugtrio before they Mud Slap me down in return. And that's very crucial when I'm running my own Alolan Dugtrio in the back, because we've seen how much those Mud Slaps do in damage. Like, look at that. I bring in my own Dugtrio here, hoping that 2 Mud Slaps KO'd, and if 2 Mud Slaps KO, I would have been in a very nice spot, but 2 did not. And my opponent is just a little too healthy where I'm not going to be able to get the bubble down before they reach a parting play rough to take that one. GG's to my opponent. Next battle, Azu into Azu, the Azumarill. So like I said last time, we know how to play this out based on if we win the CMP tie or not. They're going to fire right away. Like I said, I like to overfarm. Their first play rough will land. My first play rough will land in return as well. And now we're going to fire off the second play rough when we get it. And it does end up being on the CMP tie. And we do lose the CMP tie. So that's very useful information here. Therefore, this will be a good example of how to play it out if you lose that CMP tie. So my second play rough lands. And instead of building up to that third play rough, we're just going to fire off that Ice Beam. And this is going to be very helpful chip damage, as depending on how high ranked of an Azu your opponent's running, that could be a single Mud Slap range or 2 Mud Slap range. For me, it looks like my opponent's running a really high ranked Azu as well, so it is 2 Mud Slap range, but either way, only taking 2 bubbles in return, as opposed to, building up to that play rough and losing CMP tie, and their Azu still being decently healthy because you didn't get that Ice Beam of chip. That's 4 Mud Slap range, which means they're going to take 4 bubbles of damage, and that's a lot for Mona's Glassy as Excadrill is. Here, my opponent is gonna fire off a Dragon Claw to deny my last second drill run, and that's fine. I'm gonna let it go, get a nice Mud Slap down with the Dugtrio, see what they have in the back, and it's a Perrserker. We absolutely love to see those steel types, as we don't even need to throw a move. We just Mud Slap it all the way down, and both of us end with a shield remaining. GG's. Next battle, Shadow Empoleon Lead. So like I said, stay in, check its fast move. This one's Steel Wing, so we are gonna safe swap into that Shadow Excadrill, and we do bait out the Sand Attack user in that Flygon. We do reach a drill run here. This is gonna be some very nice chip damage into the Flygon. And my opponent, they get a little scared. I'm not sure, they might have been able to get that Sand Attack down, might have come down to DRE, but they end up firing off a move, which is perfectly fine, because now that allows my Azu to get an extremely nice bubble down here against the Flygon. They do reach 2 Scorching Sands, so again, another rare scenario where I do use a shield on the Azu. My logic behind this one was they have a Shadow Dugtrio lead, or sorry, a Shadow Empoleon lead, and Shadow Empoleon's fairly glassy, where even a play rough from Azu could do some decent chip damage to it. So I'm like, okay, I can give up a shield in return for a ton of energy, and then that ton of energy from the Azu will be very punishing. And it does end up being a right call because they have that Turtonator in the back. So if I saved both of those shields for the Dugtrio, it would have just gotten deleted by the Incinerate. But now we have, but now by shielding one of those Scorching Sands, we kept our Azu healthy enough to deal with this Empoleon, as that play rough does land and they do not reach that parting drill peck. So we are able to take it. GG's. Next battle, Azu into Azu. Azumarill, extremely common in this cup. You run this team, or you've just been playing in the Fantasy Cup at all, I'm sure you've come across a plethora of Azu. It's not going to be surprising to come across by any means anymore. So we do fire off that play rough, and you're getting a good example of all the different ways you could play it out, right? You don't find out who wins the CMP tie. You find out you lose the CMP tie, and now you find out you win the CMP tie in this example. So basically, you play this out just like you would in normal Azumarill. You just take it out with that play rough. And if your opponent lets it go, that's great. Your Azu's still around healthy with some bubbles, maybe, you know, some bubble damage, maybe reach another move. They shield it. That's fine. You now have a shield advantage, and your backline loves that shield advantage. So they go for a play rough. Then they bring in a Turtonator, and I'm actually able to reach a drill run here, which is massive because Turtonator's gone with all this energy, or they get their final shield. And Alolan Dugtrio, when all shields are down, I don't think there's anything that wants to take a move from it. So we're sitting really pretty right now. They end up going for an Incinerate, but that's not going to matter. They bring back in that Azu. Azu's gone. It's Mud Slap down. They don't want to see it. Why do they not want to see it? Because they have a Wigglytuff in the back. So this Iron Head, hello Wiggly, goodbye Wiggly, just absolutely annihilates it. And that is a good game. Next battle, another Azumarill. Shocker. Who could have guessed that? But guys are getting plenty of examples of how to play out this lead so far. It's a fairly simple one, but hey, might as well just drive it in at this point. They do land that play rough. We fire off the play rough in return. Sounding like a broken record here, going back and forth over that. Next play rough. Oh, we do lose that CMP tie, so we know how to play this out by now. Circle goes around on the fairy type charge move animation. Lit up this energy, fire off that ice beam. Get that chip damage. They fire off a move right away, and it looks like my opponent's definitely running a more attack weighted Azu here, as you'll see that HP difference between that last Azumarill I lost CMP in versus this one, where they do go down in 1 Mud Slap instead of 2. Now they bring in their own Excadrill, but it's a regular Excadrill. And here, I'm just hoping it's not a mirror match, because if it's a mirror match at this point, I've lost from that Mud Slap damage, but it's not. It's a Galarian Wheezing, and Dugtrio is just gonna eat this up. They reach a Brutal Swing, doesn't matter. We saved our shields for it, as down goes the Wheezing, and that is a good game. Yeah, pretty plain and simple. Mud Slap is broken. Like, the fact it made Alolan Dugtrio top meta tells you all you need to know. Well, hopefully you enjoyed the showcase of this busted team with those little back-to-back 4-1 sets of Azumarill Lead Simulator. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate ya. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Love to hear what you have to say. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.